the desk deficit in our school, historical data tells that it is not improving. If you look at 2017, the percentage of pupils not having desks was 30% at the primary school level. But as of 2021, that percentage has increased to 40%. So nationally, 40% of pupils are not having sitting and writing places. To translate that into a number, that is 2.3 million Ghanaian children across primary, KG, junior high school are not having sitting and writing spaces. And if you do regional and federal district disaggregation of data, the situation is worse. If you look at Northeast, about 80% of the pupils are not having sitting and writing places. And one of the challenges we have identified is that because the Pre-Tertiary Education Act 2020 has devolved the responsibility of providing desks or infrastructure in general to district assemblies, the challenge is that that responsibility does not come with the financial ability of the assemblies to address the situation. So we have devolved that responsibility to them to provide the desks and other infrastructure needed in our school. But some of the assemblies do not have the capacity to generate funds locally to address the situation. And the district assembly common fund that is also supposed to come to them regularly is not coming regularly for them to channel resources to that. That's why we also see instances of classrooms that are built without desks being provided. Another resource that we can fall on nationally is the GET fund. And in my presentation, I mentioned the very fact that now we are seeing that GET fund, which ordinarily is supposed to address the infrastructure challenges in our school, is now being used to do a lot of non-infrastructure projects. For instance, awarding or providing laptop for teachers, then government plan to provide, tablets for students in the senior high school level. And then we are also seeing scholarship, most of them falling on the GET fund for scholarship, which ordinarily is supposed not to be the case. So that's one of the challenges that is also improving the desk deficit and also generally the infrastructure deficit in our school. And that's why we need to address it from the point of, first of all, ensuring that GET fund begins to allocate a lot of its resources to infrastructure. We should reverse the case where we are allocating 70% of its resources to non-infrastructure projects and now begin to allocate at least 70% to infrastructure projects. And then out of the allocation, we can now focus on basic education because they have a lot of the challenges in terms of infrastructure deficit. So we should allocate 50% of the GET fund allocation to basic education infrastructure needs, and then we can also focus on the desk deficit in our schools.
Can we touch on the impact?
All right. So in our study in 2021, we look at the deprivation and its impact on enrollment and participation in school fully. We realized that some parents mentioned that because of the nature of classrooms, they were discouraged to enroll their wards. And then also specifically when it comes to the girls, when girls not have sitting place and they have to adopt inappropriate sitting posture, they expose themselves, which also makes them prone to sexual harassment from their own colleagues or maybe even at times teachers. That's one of the risks. And then also for the very fact that their posture are not encouraging or healthy for them, some of them skip school because of the condition of the classroom. And once they begin to skip class, it means in the terms of academic performance, they are going to perform low. And a student that is performing low academically is at risk of dropping out. The student feels that, well, he or she is not good academically, and therefore the best is to stay at home. So it has the potential of getting a student to drop out of school.
Okay.
The recommendations, I mentioned that one, we'd have to see 70% of the GET fund resources going to infrastructure projects. And then out of that allocation, we should also see that 50% is going to address the infrastructure deficit in our schools at the basic education level specifically. That's where the infrastructure needs are the more. And then out of that, we prioritize deck situations where we can get maybe our 30% out of that 50% allocation to infrastructure needs at the basic education level to address the deck deficit. But we also recognize that government alone cannot do it. We need to have a strategy in place where resources can be mobilized. So it's very important for the Ministry of Education to develop a strategy where they can mobilize resources from corporate Ghana and then also Forestry Commission, especially for the issue of decks. We strongly believe that the Forestry Commission could be of help or at a point of intervention. So it's very important to have that strategy in place where we can mobilize resources from other sectors like the corporate sector, faith-based organization, parents to address the situation. And that's one of the reasons why we are here, to have a dialogue with the corporate Ghana. You see how we can have a model framework that will look at raking in resources from those entities to address their challenges in our schools.